Welcome everybody to another Wednesday night shiur. Everything's okay?
Mm-hmm.
Tonight's shiur is L'Hatzlachat. All those people who do the Yisachar and Zvulun agreement with the Rabbi. All those people who gave. May Hashem bless them with bracha, Hatzlacha, Parnasa, Nachat Me'eladim. May they see a lot of pleasure and may a lot of good things from their children until the end of generation. Thank you. And of course, thank you to our host as usual, Levi Katan. May Hashem bless him with Parnasa Tova, Shefara, Kol HaHatzlachot. May our Torah be like his Torah.
Amen.
Tonight, Be'ezrat Hashem Yitbarach, with Hashem's help, I wanted to talk about, I call this shiur Part-2 of the SHOVAVIM. Why Part-2 of the SHOVAVIM? As we know, the time of SHOVAVIM is a very auspicious time to fix the sins of the Brit. To fix the sins of the Brit. We discussed last shiur, which was more of a private shiur. We only gave it out to people who asked for it, and only to men only, of course. We talked about what are the different levels of Pegam Brit. What are the different levels? We talked about many different halachic effects of Pegam Habrit. Different situations. Are women chayav be Pegam Habrit? If a man says, if I don't do Pegam Habrit, I'm going to be with a nida, my wife that's a nida. All different kind of halachic situations. We brought sources. But many rabbis today, unfortunately, don't talk about one of the main things. What to do. It's okay. What to do if a person actually fell. What to do if he fell. He did the Avera. He did the Pagam Habrit. Whether it was with a Jewish woman, a non-Jewish woman. Last week we also talked about learning Torah. But today, I want to tell you guys something very, very serious. The Gemara brings a story. Abaye, if you guys know who Abaye is, the Gemara, our Talmud, is called Havayot Abaye Verava. What does that mean, Havayot Abaye Verava? The speech, the talkings, the conversations of Abaye and Rava. You can't go 2.5 pages in the Gemara, in all 36 Masechtot, without seeing one of their names. Most of the Gemara is a machloket, it's a disagreement between Abaye and Rava. Most of the time, the halacha follows Rava, not Abaye, except for Ya'el Kagam, 6 cases. Those 6 cases we follow Abaye. Why? Why is that? The Gemara says that Rava, when he used to give a Devar Torah, it was like eating a piece of meat, you know? It was pshat. There was no pilpulim. You didn't have to crack your head so much. Everybody could understand him, you know? It was halacha. If you learned in Abaye's yeshiva, it was like breaking bones with your teeth. To understand what he was saying, he was so harif. He was so spicy in the mind. To understand what he said, So the halacha, most of the time, the Gemara likes people who are pashut. You see that everywhere in the Gemara. Rav and Shmuel, Rav Yosef and Rava. So the Gemara says a story with Abaye, the great sage, one of the great Amoraim. One day he was in a house and he hears his neighbors speaking. A man and a woman. The woman tells the man, I'm going right now to a certain city, let's say Tzipori, I think it was. Not Tzipori, it's impossible because I was in Israel, he was in Iraq. But whatever the case was, he was going to a city. And the man says, I'm also going that way. Let's go together, let's save on the taxi fare. Let's save on the wagon fare. She said, okay. Abaye said to himself, listen, these guys are going to do an Avera, they're together. Why? Yichud. They're together, man and a woman together, it's a recipe for disaster. I'm going to follow after them. He's a Rosh Yeshiva. I'm going to follow after them in secret. To make sure if something happens, I'm going to jump in and stop them in the right moment. They go and he's going after them. Like a stalker. They're going and he's behind them, hiding. At a certain point, the woman says, listen, I gotta go left. The guy says, okay, no problem, I gotta go right. May you have a good day, das svidania, shalom alechem, alechem shalom, and they left. The Gemara says, Abaye was on his knees crying. You know who Abaye was? He could do tchiyat hametim. He was crying like a baby. And he said, if I was that guy, I for sure would have done an avera. And he was, and could you imagine the sight of it? Imagine seeing Rav Ovadia Yosef on the side of the derech, on the side of the way. He's crying. And what is he saying? I would have done a sin with a woman. The Gemara says an old man comes to him, taps him on the back and says, Abaye, stop crying. Stop crying. Don't you know? Whoever is greater than his friend has a bigger Yetzer Hara than him. If a person is at a higher level in Torah than his friend, he has a bigger Yetzer Hara. He has a bigger Yetzer Hara. And Abaye was calm. The fact that he would have done a sin doesn't mean that he's a Rasha, chas v'shalom. Doesn't mean that he's going on the wrong path. It means that his Yetzer Hara is stronger, so he has a bigger test. And that, Rabotai, is our discussion tonight. You see, many people, when they become religious, observant as I like to call it, not religious, I don't like that word, they find that as they're becoming more observant in Torah, mitzvot, they felt that their emunah was stronger when they were non-observant, chilonim, secular, than when they are right now observant. They feel like, listen, I was a better Jew, how you say in Bukhara, in the Russian Sersa, his inside was much better when he was secular than when he was a Jew. He finds that now he's more conniving, now he's more, likes money more, likes women. You know, he feels like he's always on a downfall. And he says, why? I'm coming closer to Hashem. How come Hashem pushes me away? And he doesn't know that the reason he has bigger tests right now is because the more you come closer to Hashem, the bigger your Yetzer Hara becomes. But the question is, and here is the punchline, here's the punch question, I should say. What makes a person bigger than his friend? What makes a person a tzaddik? Listen, I keep Shabbat, you keep Shabbat. I say bracha on food, you say bracha on food. I wear tzitzit, you wear tzitzit. What makes one person greater in the level towards Hashem than the other? And the answer is, Rav Nissim again Zatzal says, when a person looks at a great person, let's say I want to see Donald Trump. Donald Trump, everybody was against him. The whole America is against the guy. Till today. Celebrities, people. If I look at Donald Trump and I say, what makes him a great man? Lahavdil. What do I say? Listen, the guy is worth billions. The guy doesn't care about anybody. He says what comes to his mind. He's transparent. The guy's, or I say, what makes a guy strong? If he wins a lot of wars, if he's a general. What makes a soldier into a general? If he wins a lot of wars, if he shows bravery. In Hashem's eyes, that guy is nothing. In Hashem's eyes, it doesn't matter how many wars you win. It doesn't matter how rich you are. That stuff doesn't matter to God. All those things are just a means to an end. Person goes on a bus and he hears two people talk. He says, my son is an architect. And the other guy says, my son is a dentist. They're both talking how their children are high in the academic ladder. In Hashem's eyes, what's a dentist? What is that going to give you? When a person's going to pass away, they're going to write in his tombstone, this guy put the best fillings in the world. They never came out. This guy made a root canal. Oh, the guy didn't need a crown on his tooth. Or this guy made the best building in the world. He's the best architect. Or this guy, oh, what kind of pharmacist he was. You don't know what kind of pharmacist. He used to give drugs. He was a legal drug dealer. Come on, you can't get better than that. You think Hashem cares about that? Hashem put me in this world to dispense drugs. Hashem put you in this world to put fillings in people's teeth. Hashem put you in this world to build buildings. Hashem has 1,000,000 different messengers to do that. 1,000,000. When Hashem picked Moshe Rabbeinu to be the leader of Am Yisrael, what did he look at in Moshe Rabbeinu? The Midrash says, when Moshe was a shepherd in Yitro's flock, one day a small Gadi is a goat, starts running away from the flock. He's running after him. Suddenly, the Gadi, the small goat, finds a small agam, a small puddle of water, starts to drink. Moshe says, oh, that's all you really wanted? To have a little drink of water? It was as almost Moshe said to the goat, why didn't you tell me? He waited patiently till the goat finished drinking the water. He took the goat. He says, probably you're full. You can't walk. He put him on his back, Moshe Rabbeinu, and took him back to the flock. You know what kind of Gibor Moshe was? According to the Midrash, he was 15 feet tall, for the love of God. When Moshe Rabbeinu saw that the Egyptian was hitting the Jew, what did he do to the Egyptian? He said, Hashem Kadosh Takeh. He said the name Takeh. Taf Chaf Hey. He killed the Egyptian on the spot. How come the Midrash doesn't say Hashem picked Moshe Rabbeinu to be the leader of the Jewish people because he killed the Egyptian? How come he doesn't say that? Do you know there is a Midrash that says that Moshe was the king of Ethiopia for 40 years? How come the Torah doesn't write that?
I read that in the Midrash.
It is in the Midrash. It's not in the Torah. How come the Torah doesn't write that? Where was Moshe Rabbeinu? 40 years old, he left Egypt. 80 years old, he comes back. What was he doing for 40 years? Midrash says he was a king of Ethiopia for 40 years. How come the Torah doesn't write that? I mean, if there is a reason to pick Moshe Rabbeinu to be the leader of the Jews, it should be because he was a king. You know why? Because Hashem doesn't care about that. The Torah only cares about something that's important to Hashem. You know what the Torah cares about? That Moshe Rabbeinu let the goat drink from the water, then he put him on his back and took him. How did Hashem pick David HaMelech to be the king of the Jews? You know why? The Tehillim says, David HaMelech says to Hashem, you know why you picked me? Because you took me michloot tzon. You know what michloot tzon means? David HaMelech, when he used to be a shepherd, there is big goats, big sheep, rams, the old guys, you know? Then there's the baby ones.
He let everybody eat what they were.
Yes. First, he used to make a gate, put all the flock in. Then he used to let only the baby sheep go. They used to eat the soft grass. After they finished the soft grass, what's left over there? All the sang, all the hard stuff. Then he used to put all the baby sheep back in, take out the old skenim over there. They used to eat the old grass. Hashem said, oh, you have mercy on a goat, on a sheep? If you have mercy on that, you're going to be my king. You're the king of the Jews. To be a leader of a Jew doesn't mean how much you know Torah. Rabotai, doesn't mean that. The Gemara. This is a beautiful Gemara, Rabotai. You know, when a person reads a Gemara like this, you can't help but be inspired. You can't help it. And the message is so sublime that you could almost miss it if you're going to read it. I'm going to point it out for you tonight. The Gemara says in Masechet Avodah Zarah, Daf Yud Zayin, there was a time that the Jewish people were not allowed to learn Torah in public. Even us, gathered here today learning Torah, a couple of guys. If the Romans would have found us like this, Chas Shalom, Shema Yisrael, Vidui. There was a rabbi called Rabbi Hananiah ben Tradion. He didn't care. The Romans said you can't learn Torah in public. He gathered everybody, taught Torah in public. He had a friend. His name was Rabbi Yossi ben Kisma. Rabbi Yossi ben Kisma was sick. He was the elder sage. He called Rabbi Hananiah ben Tradion by his deathbed. He said, come here. He says, what? He says, I heard that you're teaching Torah in public. Is that true? He says, yeah. He says, you know, if the Romans find out, you're dead meat. He says, I know, I still do it. He tells him, do you ever have any mitzvah you did in your life? Think what he's saying to him, Rabotai. What did he ask him? The guy is teaching Torah in public. And he's asking, what mitzvah you doing? He says, yeah, I have a mitzvah. What's his mitzvah? Rav Chanina ben Tradion, he used to collect tzedakah for poor people. And he also had money in his pocket for Purim. One day he forgot which pocket he put the money for tzedakah for Purim, which money he put for the tzedakah for the old people. So what did he do since he forgot which pocket was what? He took all the money and gave it to the poor people. He says, that mitzvah I did in my life. Rabbi Chanina ben Tradion. You know what Rabbi Yossi ben Kisma told him? Oh, you did that mitzvah? When I die, I want to sit next to you in Olam Haba. The Gemara says, it wasn't a couple of days after that, the Romans took Rabbi Chanina ben Tradion, they took the Sefer Torah that was in his arms, they wrapped him around it and they burnt him to death. With the Sefer Torah. Now I want to ask you guys a question. We're talking about great people. Our shiur today is called Can Righteous Fall? Can the Righteous Fall? How come Rabbi Yossi ben Kisma, when he asked Rabbi Hananiah ben Tradion and he told him, listen, I teach Torah in public. How come he didn't tell him then, may my chelek, my portion in Olam Haba, be next to you? He waited till he told him that he mixed up money and he gave all to poor people. You know why? Because Hashem doesn't care about the big things you do. I gave $1 million to this organization. Then you have your name plastered all around the building. You know what Hashem cares about? I forgot I had money in my pocket for this guy and for this guy. You know what I did? I took both, gave it to this guy, then I took my own money and gave it to this guy. That's what Hashem cares about. Two people are fasting. SHOVAVIM, we fast on SHOVAVIM. One guy lets the whole world know, I fasted today. One guy, he's fasting, somebody tells him, let's go out for pizza. He doesn't want to tell him that he's fasting today. So what does he do? He breaks his fast. What's more important in Hashem's eyes? The fact that you broke your fast and you didn't let him know that you are fasting. Hashem doesn't care what kind of gibor you are. Hashem wants to know, do you have mercy on the goat and the sheep? The small stuff that matter. It's the small things that make a person righteous. That was what Rabbi Yossi ben Kisma was looking for. He didn't care that Rabbi Chanina ben Tradion was teaching Torah in public. He didn't care about that. He cared that Rabbi Chanina ben Tradion, he gave tzedakah in private. That's what Hashem likes. That's what a righteous person is. That's what differentiates between Gadol Hador and a Talmid Chacham. There are many Talmidei Chachamim out there in the world. Not everybody becomes Rav Ovadia. You know why? Not everybody is as humble and private as Rav Ovadia. Do you guys know who Rav Ovadia Yosef was until he became 70 years old? Nobody knew who he was, only in Israel. We only heard about him in the last 20, 30 years of his life. Because all he cared about was the Torah. Rav Ovadia Yosef used to say, I'm jealous. I'm jealous of Rav Elyashiv. Who was Rav Elyashiv? Rav Yosef Shalom Elyashiv. He was never a dayan. He was a dayan, but he was never a rabbi of a shul, never a rabbi of a community. All he did his whole life was learn Torah in private at home. Rav Ovadia Yosef says, I wish I could do that. But you wouldn't have any honor then. You think I'm learning Torah for honor? The Gemara continues the story. The Gemara asks a question in Masechet Avodah Zarah. How come Rav Chanina ben Tradion, who was Moser Nefesh, he gave over his life for Torah, how come Hashem punished him like that? And not only did he punish him, Rav Chanina ben Tradion had a wife. The Romans took her and put her to death. And he had a daughter. This daughter, they put her, I don't want to say the word, but unfortunately, they put her as a zonah. A promiscuous woman that sells herself. They forced her to do that. Because how come these three people, these three tzaddikim were punished like that? You know why Rabbi Chanina ben Tradion was punished? The Gemara says in Masechet Avodah Zarah, when he used to teach Torah, he used to read Hashem's name. he used to read Hashem's name. For this small thing? Yeah. You know why? If you're already a tzaddik, then you have to be careful, even in Avera that's as thin as a hairline. And why was his wife punished? Because she didn't stop him. And why was his daughter punished? One day she was walking by the senators of Rome. And they said, oh, look how nice she walks. What kind of nice figure she has. You know what she used to do from that day on? She was sure to walk extra nice. To walk as nice as possible.
Then what happened to her?
What happened? The Gemara continues and says, you know who was her brother-in-law? Reb Meir Balanes. This girl. Rabbi Meir Balanes. Who hasn't heard of Reb Meir Balanes? Everybody heard of the man. Anybody who lost the object, what does he say? Elahad Meir Aneni, Elahad Meir Aneni. If a person is in a tzara, they say, put tzedakah b'zchut Reb Meir Balanes. Reb Meir Balanes was the brother-in-law of the daughter of Rabbi Hanana ben Teredion. That means he married his second daughter, Beruria. What happened? When she went in the, I don't want to say the word, but Lilmod or Lilamed, in the Kuba Shel Zonot, where the girls were doing whatever they did, she told her of Meir, it's a cherpa, it's a disgusting thing that my sister is going to be stuck in that house. Go and save her. What did Reb Meir do? He said, you're crazy. He didn't tell his wife, be quiet. You know what he said? He took a bag. He put 1,000 gold coins inside. He was a lavlar. You know what a lavlar is? He was a sofer. He took the bag. He said, if she didn't make a avera with a person, a miracle is going to happen. I'm going to save her. But if she did do an avera, I could do 1,000,000 things in the world. I can't save her. He went. How did he know? He went. He dressed up like a Roman. Made haircut like this. Cut his beard a bit. Wore a nice suit. Red tie. Blue suit. And he went to that house where she was inside. Kuba Shel Zonot. He went over there and he found her. She didn't recognize who he was. Why? Because he was dressed like a Roman. And he told her, I have money over here. Let's do the avera. He told her. The Gemara says. You know what she told him? I'm sorry. Izvinisi mine. I'm a nida right now. Even goyim don't like to be with a woman while she's menstruating. You know what he said to her? The Gemara says. He said to her, it's okay. One time it's okay. You know what she told him? He says, you have 1,000,000 beautiful women over here. What do you want to do an avera with me for? Leave me alone. Rav Meir said, this is a sign she was pure. He took the money. He gave 500 to the guard. He says, take another 500 to give shochat, to bribe the senators, that they shouldn't ask, where is she? He says, what happens if the money is going to go out? What am I? They're going to kill me. He says, whenever you're in trouble, say 3 words. Elaha Meir Aneni. That's the source of these 3 words. He says, how do I know it works, you crazy old rabbi? He says, I'm going to prove it to you. You see those dogs over there? They eat meat, flesh. Throw some rock on them, they're going to come to eat you. Say Elaha Meir Aneni, they're going to leave you alone. He says, oh yeah. He takes the rock, throws it, their dogs goes, Elaha Meir Aneni. They leave him alone. He says, why? This rabbi is for real. He says, I'm going to take the money, let's go, let's do it. He gives him the money, he takes his sister-in-law, sends her home. What happens? After a while, the money went out. And the Roman senators found out what he did. The guard. They took him to hang him. They put a rope around his neck. They hastened it. They're about to pull the rope. Suddenly he says, Elaha Meir Aneni. The rope breaks. The Gemara says. Hi. One time is a coincidence. They put the rope again. Elaha Meir Aneni. Pah. The rope breaks. Again. Elaha Meir Aneni. Suddenly he says, listen, we gotta get this guy. They put strong rope. Suddenly, the floor breaks. Elaha Meir Aneni. The Gemara says, He says, listen, we can't kill this guy over here. What's going on? They ask him, what's your story? So he tells him, listen, you're going to save me if I tell you? He says, yeah, we're going to let you go. I met this rabbi. He's a cool rabbi, Reb Meir. He told me 3 magic words. Whenever I say it, I'm safe. He says, oh yeah? Yeah. He says, you could draw him for us? Yeah, we could draw him. They took his drawing and they put most wanted, $50,000. Who could bring Reb Meir Baal HaNes's head to us? Like this, Reb Meir is running away. They're running after him. He's running, they're running after him. The Gemara says, what happened? He was so tired of running from them, from the Romans. One day he was running and he found a guy selling pig. Bacon with cheese. He put his finger inside like this, then he put his thumb inside his mouth. As if he was tasting from the meat and pig. So he says, this can't be Reb Meir, they said. Reb Meir Baal HaNes would never have tasted pig with cheese. And they left him alone. The Gemara says, there's a different version to the story. What happened? Eliyahu Hanavi came, made himself like a zonah, started hugging him and kissing him. Says, oh, this can't be Reb Meir Baal HaNes. He would never have kissed a zonah. It was really Eliyahu Hanavi. And they let him go. But, the Gemara says, and this is the punchline for tonight, what happened? They found out anyways, the Romans, and they wanted to kill him, so he ran away to where? Bavel, Iraq. But the Gemara says, some say Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes didn't run away to Iraq because of this story. Some say he ran away to Iraq because of the story of what happened to his wife, Bruria. Who was Bruria? The Gemara in Masechet Eruvin says, Daf Nun Gimel, 53, that Bruria was so smart that she was able to learn 300 halachot from 300 different rabbis. Usually what happens today, you listen to a speech, then you go to a different rabbi, you listen to a speech. You can't connect the two. Why is this rabbi saying one thing, this rabbi saying another thing? Bruria was so smart, she was able to listen to 300 different halachot from 300 different rabbis. Bruria was so smart, the Gemara, Masechet Kiddushin says, Daf Pei Amud Bet. There is a saying by the rabbis. Nashim, women, da'atan, their mind, kalot. They're very easily influenced. You could influence a woman to anything. If you're good enough, you could influence anything. The Gemara, the Tosfot says, what does that mean? The Gemara says a halacha. Two men cannot be in the same room alone with a woman. They could be. If you have 2 guys in a room alone with women, it's not yichud. That's mutar. Why? The Gemara says, I'm going to be ashamed of my friend. I'm not going to do anything with her. But the Gemara says, 2 women can't be in the same room as a man. Why? The guys, if he's good enough of an influencer, he could influence them to do both of them shliyot with him. That's the isur of yichud. So the Gemara says, how come that's the reason? Because nashim, da'atan, kalot. They're easily influenced. The Tosfot bring a story. What happened? There was once a woman whose husband passed away. The Tosfot, I could read it to you inside if you want. Tosfot Daf Pei Amud Bet, Dibur HaMatchil Ki Ahi Ma'aseh. Look at inside, 80b. Masechet Kiddushin. There was once a woman whose husband died. They buried him. Every day, she would come to the grave and cry. My husband, my this, my that, every day. For more than a year. She couldn't get over that he was dead. She loved him so much, the Tosfot says. Obsessed, as they say, obsession. She was in love, obsession, with her husband. The guy is dead already for 12 months. Leave him alone already. He already got out of Gehenom.
How long they used to live?
The regular time. And she's crying over there in the graveyard. The Tosfot writes, There was one guy who was hanged. From what? For what? He stole something. He stole. Back then in the country, they used to hang anybody who used to steal. And they put a shomer. You know what shomer is? A guard to watch the body that nobody should take it down. Why? They used to leave the body hanged for embarrassment. In the Torah, you're not allowed to leave a guy hanged for more than a day. What happens? The guard, sees the girl always crying on the grave. She's a beautiful woman, young, almana, widow. He says to himself, listen, I'm here, she's here. Davai. He goes to her, one day talks to her, hi, how you doing, how's everything? Second day, third day. A week after, the Gemara, the Tosfot writes, they do the sin together on the grave of the husband. But by the time he goes back, the guard, to his post, he sees the body is gone. His oy vavoy. Now the king is gonna come, he's gonna see the body is gone, I'm gonna be on the tree. You know what the wife told him? Don't worry about it. Open my husband's grave and put him over there. So the Tosfot says, from here we learn, Nashim, da'atan kala, that easily persuade. That's what the Tosfot writes. That's what you write usually for this kind of shiuri, men only, you know, because so that's what the Tosfot write. So the Gemara, continuing on, when Bruria heard the rabbi say this, she was a feminist. You know what a feminist is? She was women's rights. You know what she told her husband? You rabbis are... I'm smarter than half of you guys, she said. Nashim da'atan kala chutz me Bruria, she said. All women are easily persuaded except for me. I'm good. Don't worry about me, she told her husband. Rav Meir says, watch out what you say. One day you're going to admit to what the rabbi says. He says, don't worry about it. I'm good. Rashi in Masechet Avodah Zarah says, what happened? One day the rabbi sent a student to test Bruria. What? He was going to go inside the house. Rav Meir went away on a business trip. The student goes inside. Hi, how are you? 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. Let's do your husband's not home. It's okay, you know. Beseder. 1 day passes. 2, 3. She says, no, get out. Tzadeket. Meanwhile, Rav Meir didn't really go away. He was hiding behind the house to see what would happen. After a week, she told him, the student, okay, let's do it. Right away, Rav Meir walks inside the door. Aha! I got you. I told you women are easily persuaded. Don't say what the Chachamim said is for nothing. When she saw that, from embarrassment, she hanged herself. So the Gemara says, she hanged herself. Rav Meir, the Gemara says, because of the embarrassment that his wife killed herself, he ran away to Iraq. He had to move, change zip codes from the embarrassment. Now, I want to ask you guys a question. How could Rav Meir test his wife like that? It's your wife, the daughter of Rabbi Hanania ben Tradion. She was a tzadeket, she was so smart. The Gemara brings a story, Rav Meir had two sons. One day he comes back from the yeshiva, they both died from fever. What did Bruria do? She took them, the two sons, put them on the roof. He comes and says, where's my children? He says, listen, she told him, if Hashem gave you a gift, then he asked for it back, would you give it back to him? He said, what? If Hashem gave me a gift, of course I will give it back to him. He says, go to the roof. And you see they're both dead. His two sons. He didn't cry. He said, my wife, you're smarter than me. You calmed me down. Bruria was so smart, the Gemara says, Rab Meir had very bad neighbors. You ever have bad neighbors? They always make noise. His neighbors were so bad, on Pesach night, they used to do Avodah Zarah right next to his face, just to get him angry. They were Jewish. Rab Meir was so angry, he used to pray at Shaddai. Bruria said, don't pray at Shaddai. Pray they should be Chozer B'Tshuvah. That's what Reb Meir did. He became Chozer B'Tshuva. So how could Reb Meir do such a thing to his wife? She killed herself. Bruria! L'dor Yochanan ben Tradion! Asara Harogei Malchut. You know what Asara Harogei Malchut was? The Ari Kadosh brings down that Yosef HaTzadik, when he was about to do the sin with Potiphar's wife, from his fingernails came out 10 drops. Not 10 drops mamash, the Ari says. People hear the shiur, they think actually 10 drops were oozing from his fingers. Guys, come on, be real. The nishamot, the souls, the Ari said, that were supposed to be in the 10 drops, came out of his fingers. You know which one of them was? Rabbi Chanina ben Tradion. You know what kind of neshama he was? It was his daughter. The Ari Kadosh says every morning, you guys says El Nekamot Hashem, El Nekamot Afi. You guys say that, right? The Ari says when you say that, you have to think, may Hashem avenge the 10 martyrs. One of them is Rabbi Chanina ben Tradion. If you don't have that kavanah, forget about it. Zabut, your tefillah doesn't go up. The Ari says explicitly in Shara Kavanot, Drushei Shacharit, if you don't have kavanah that Hashem should avenge the 10 martyrs at that moment, your tefillah doesn't go up. Forget about it. It's like you're praying, it's stuck in midair. You need a rabbi like the Baal Shem to pop it up. Then you think, how come Hashem doesn't answer my prayers? You don't have the right kavanah, guys. That was Rabbi Chanina ben Tradion. How could Rav Meir do that to her? How could he cause his own wife's death? You know what I'm saying? It's a valid question. To explain to you the answer, I have to go way back in time. I have to rewind 1,000 years before to a man called David HaMelech. Who is David HaMelech? I don't have the book written in front of me right now, so I hope you guys are going to take me for my word. There's a book called Bnei Aharon, written Rabbi Shimon Agassi, who was one of the greatest Mikubalim in the past 100 years. Rabbi Shimon Agassi, he wrote a Perush on the gates of reincarnation of the Ari Kadosh. The great Kabbalists say if he would have written a Perush, a commentary on the whole Etz HaChaim of the Ari, we would have left everybody else's commentary and just learned his. That's how good he was. Nobody dared write a commentary on the gates of reincarnation but him. Rabbi Shimon Agassi writes, I believe in Hagdama Zayin, the 7th chapter. There was only one man that ever lived in this world. Only one man to ever fix his whole tikkun in one Gilgul. David HaMelech.
I thought two.
Only one, he writes over there.
What about Daniel?
No, Daniel, that's a different thing over there. But David HaMelech, he came from a different part. You see, the difference between Daniel and David, if you already brought it up, Daniel, his neshama was from Olam HaAsiyah. David was from Atzilut. And he was a neshama yeshana. I can't get into that right now. It's very deep, esoteric things. But David HaMelech, in his sense, his job was harder than Daniel's. Why? When Cain and Hevel sinned, and Adam HaRishon sinned, David HaMelech's soul went straight into the Satan. The Satan took his soul so bad, he held it inside so much, he didn't want to let it go for life. He didn't want to let it go, David HaMelech's soul. David HaMelech's soul was in the Klippa. Imagine being covered in garbage for 2,000 years. And you're into this world for the first time. You know what kind of heart tikkun you have? And he finished everything in one shot. Nobody finished, and he also did the whole thing with Batsheva, and he still fixed it. Nobody ever did what he did. Now you understand how come reading Tehillim is so powerful. Tehillim is so powerful, Rabotai. It's like throwing a rocket into heaven. It's like throwing a rocket into heaven. Because the man who wrote it was the only man in the history of the world to fix his whole Gilgul in one shot. David HaMelech. That's what the Bnei Aharon says. He was the only one of his kind. But he had a test. What was his test? When he killed Goliath, he had a problem. He couldn't cut off Goliath's head. He asked help from a man. His name was Uriah. Uriah Achiti. He says to him, help me cut off the head. For some reason, Hashem made him weak at that moment. He told him, if I help you cut off his head, you're gonna give me a woman. I want to marry a girl. Says who? Her name is Bathsheba. David HaMelech didn't know this is his soulmate. He's not the wife. Guys, not wife.
Future soulmate.
His one and only. David HaMelech had 18 wives. But this was his real soulmate. You only have one true soulmate. This was his. And he gave her away. He didn't know what he was doing.
Did he know her?
Huh? David HaMelech, he didn't know who she was.
Yeah.
He says, when I'm gonna be in charge, I'm gonna give you to her, don't worry. And he did. He gave her. He gave his own soulmate away. He didn't know what he was doing.
He got her back though.
Oh,
How did you find out?
What happened?
His soulmate.
David HaMelech got a little old. He couldn't go to war anymore. So Yoav went to war for him, his general. One day it was springtime, you know. In Jerusalem, springtime is lovely. He's going out in the balcony, in the veranda. He sees a girl's silhouette taking a bath in the balcony. Not the actual figure, he sees like a silhouette, because back then they used to have like a small mechitza. Suddenly the Satan, the Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin 107, Kuf Zayin says, Satan got him like a fire. He sends a messenger to call her. Who's this girl? Bathsheba. He tells her, who are you, this and that. She just dipped in the mikveh from Nida. And he can't control himself from the words of the Gemara. And he does a sin with her. From the words of the Gemara. And the Pashat Pshat. Of course. Well, one day maybe we're gonna understand how come David HaMelech didn't really sin. But for now, let's just learn the Gemara and Pashat Pshat. Simplicity. He was with Bathsheba, a married woman. He sends her back home. She sends him back a message, I'm pregnant. The Gemara says Uriah was one of his generals. He comes back from the war. He sends a messenger called Uriah here. He tells him, go home, wash your legs. Wash your legs was a nice way of saying go be with your wife. Why? To cover up the fact that she's pregnant for him. Uriah says, I'm not going to go. If the king's army is in the battlefield, I can't go home be with my wife. David HaMelech says, okay, stay. He slept in the castle. The next morning, he sends a secret message to Yoav, his great general, the grand general, make Uriah in the front line. That way, when the arrows are going to fall from the city, they're going to kill him and he's going to die. The arrows fall, they kill Uriah. Yoav sends a message to David, Uriah is dead. David HaMelech takes Bathsheba and he marries her. She gives birth to a baby. The baby dies. Then she gets pregnant second time to Shlomo HaMelech. The Chida says, in the name of the Ramami Pano, in the name of the Mahari Seruk, Bathsheba and Uriah and David HaMelech all came back in a Gilgul, in a reincarnation. Bathsheba was Bruriah. David was Rabbi Meir, Balanes. And Uriah was that student. Since in the last Gilgul, Bathsheba caused the death of Uriah. She could have told David, no, don't touch me. And since it was David who caused Uriah to go to the front lines, now Rabbi Meir, who is David HaMelech, called his student, Uriah, and says, go do the sin with Bruriah, who is Bathsheba. And just as Bathsheba was the cause of the death of Uriah, now Uriah, who's the student, is the cause of the death of Bruriah. Nothing goes from Hashem's eyes. Even the smallest of things Hashem takes into account. Rabbi Meir Balanes was a Gilgul of David HaMelech. Bruriah was the Gilgul of Bathsheba. Uriah was the Gilgul of that student. But I have to rewind to you guys a little bit more back. We got to go way back now to the beginning of time. You know who David HaMelech was? He was Adam HaRishon. You know who Bathsheba was? Chava. You know who Uriah was? The snake. Adam Harishon, he ate from the fruit. Chava caused him to eat from the fruit. And what happened because she ate from the fruit of the Etz Hadat? The snake put inside of her the poison. So they came back in a Gilgul as David, who was Adam. Why? Adam is, Aleph is Adam. Dalet is what? David. And Mem is what? Mashiach. And Chava became Bathsheba. And Uriah was the snake. Now Adam Harishon, which is David, has to cause the death of the snake, who is Uriah, that caused to put the poison in Chava, which is Bathsheba. But the problem was that David didn't do it the right way. So therefore he had to come back in a Gilgul as Rabbi Meir Balanes. Rabotai, even the righteous can fall, because whoever is greater than his friend in Torah and mitzvot has a greater Yetzer Hara. So even if you keep Torah and mitzvot, so even if you're the greatest Talmid Chacham, you learn Torah 10 hours a day, and you fall on the sin, don't give up. Don't give up! Even David had to come back in a Gilgul. Even Adam Harishon! Even Bathsheba! Even Uriah. Where do we stand? That's why the rabbis always say, don't ever give up hope. There is always hope at the end of the tunnel. There is a light there. There is a purpose to everything. And we're going to end with a small story from the Gemara Masechet Kiddushin Daf Pei Aleph Amud Bet. There was a rabbi called Rabbi Chia Bar Ashe. Rabbi Chia Bar Ashe was one of the greatest Amoraim. His wife one day pays attention when he's doing Anna, Hashem, Ashamnu, Bagadnu, Gazalnu. What do we call that? Vidui. After Vidui, what do we do? Le David Alecha. In Hebrew, that's called Nefilat Apayim. Now, we don't do the real Nefilat Apayim today. The Amoraim and the Tanaim back in the day, they had a special kavanah, a special formula. When they used to do Nefilat Apayim, any wish that they used to say, if they had the right kavanah, used to come true. The Ari says Nefilat Apayim is so powerful. In Nefilat Apayim, you could fix your neshama. You could fix your soul. One day, his wife pays attention that when Rabbi Chia, her husband, is doing Nefilat Apayim, he's always saying one wish. What's that wish? Hashem should save me from the Satan. His wife says, Uno momento. The guy hasn't been with me for 10 years. Kako Yetzer Hara? This guy doesn't have a Yetzer Hara. This guy has nothing. What does Hashem want to save it? What does he want Hashem to save him from? She says to herself. What does she do? She decides to test him. The Gemara says. Listen to the story, Rabotai. The story is not Pashut. What does she do? Since 10 years she hasn't been with him, she put all of her makeup in the storage. She decided it was time to take out all the makeup and the jewelry. She goes into the storage, she puts nice makeup, all of her jewelry, heels. She makes herself look good. He's learning in the Gina. He's learning Torah, Matnitin, Braita, Tosefta, whatever he was learning. Suddenly he feels somebody is moving back and forth in front of him, walking. Stops for a second, looks up, who's there? He sees a beautiful woman. He doesn't recognize it's his wife. He asks her, who are you? The Gemara says. She tells him, I'm Cheruta. Who's Cheruta? Cheruta was the name of the biggest zona back in that day. She told him, I'm here for one day, anybody who wants to use me. He looks down at the Gemara, continues learning. Suddenly he looks up again, says to her, let's do the Avera together. 10 years he wasn't with his wife. What's going on? She tells him, you want to do Avera with me? He says, yeah. He's an Amora. You have hundreds of halachot in his name in the Gemara. She says, yeah. He says, you see that pomegranate on the top of that date on top of the palm tree? Get it for me. It's my payment. Suddenly you see an 80-year-old man jumping on top of the tree like a monkey. He takes the date, he brings it to her. And they do they're together. The next morning, the Gemara says he wakes up and his wife already, she got her point through. She takes off all the jewelry, all the makeup, the Gemara says, she puts it away. He comes inside the house, he sees his wife, the way he recognizes her. And she sees she's making over there, I don't know, food. Back then the ovens were big, like brick ovens. She put the fire in the oven, he opens the oven and jumps inside. Jumps inside the oven. She says, what are you doing? He says, listen, don't stop me, I have to kill myself. Why did you kill yourself? What did you do? He said to her, listen, yesterday I did a sin with a zona. Her name is Cheruta. She tells her, relax. That was me. I was just testing you. I wanted to see if you had a Satan. Vapshe, you're always saying, Hashem, save me from Satan, save me from Satan. I wanted to test you. He says, I don't believe you. What did she do? She went inside the room, got the date. He says, remember this date? You jumped on top of the tree to get me that date? Anna, it was me. He took the date and he said, even though it was really you, I sinned. Because I didn't know it was you, I thought it was someone else. The Gemara says he fasted his whole life for the sin. He fasted so much, he died from it. Wow. The Gemara in Masechet Kiddushin says. Rabotai, what do we learn from this story? The most important thing we learn from this, don't think tzaddikim don't have a Yetzer Hara. Tzaddikim have a Yetzer Hara more than anybody in this room combined. Not only that, 100 times more than that. Don't think because a tzaddik sins, there is no way back for him. What Rav Chia Bar Ashe did, he fasted until he died, that was his teshuvah. He wasn't clean with himself until he did that. But you know what Hashem wants from us? Rav Nachum in Breslov writes, Shehora ani v'nava. What is Shehora ani v'nava? I'm black, Shlomo HaMelech says, and I'm happy. I'm black and I'm happy. Even though I'm black with sins, I did all the sins in the world, I'm happy. Right now I'm happy, so tomorrow I won't do another sin. And when I get to it, I'm going to do teshuvah. I once heard an amazing chidush from Eli Mansour, a long time ago. He says, why is tefillin black? He said. Why is not white? In Judaism, black isn't the best color. Black and red are not our friends. You know why we're black? Tefillin is the greatest mitzvah. This week's parasha we're going to read. What is one of the first mitzvot Hashem gave to the Jews when we left Egypt? The last Aliyah Shvi'i, He gave us tefillin. What do we read every morning? Kadesh Li. Kadesh Li is what? Tefillin. It's this week's parasha. You know why it's black? Even though you did the biggest sin last night, in the morning is a new day. Even if you're black, even if your soul is black, it's no reason to give up. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen ve'amen.